Evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the virtual Richmond International Raceway for the 8th round on the 2016 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Vibe, presented by Sim Experience. We're ready for the FTC Richmond 180, and we're happy to have you with us right here on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing, and streaming live on iRacing Live. Evan Pasoko, Justin Rose, now and Brian Macklin topside with you at the LSRTV broadcast tower, and as always downstairs in the production trailer, LSRTV's producer Cisco Scarmuza pushing the buttons and getting us to you this evening for 180 laps and 135 miles of short track action. If you tuned in last night, we saw a thriller at the Ascors Pro Geek Consulted Cup Series, and we expect nonetheless here tonight for the 8th round, Justin, on this 2016 championship. These guys right now working through their qualifying session. A good way to start off 180 laps is to start P1. That's the objective, and DeBarro, fastest in practice, our provisional pole sitter at the moment.
Yes, indeed. I don't think anybody else is going to be on the track for the rest of the session. A few drivers that were doing very well in practice would elect to sit out and take a provisional to start the race. And Anthony DeBarro looks like he will possibly take the provisional pole with a 21.731 second lap around the three-quarter mile Richmond International Raceway. Going to run through some track facts for you. It's going to be a 1,000-foot back straightaway here at the Richmond International Raceway. 14-degree banking down in the corners, and that unique D-shaped oval on the front stretch for the banking of about 5 degrees. And these guys are going to set sail and set them off 2 by 2, and the track's already pretty rubbered in, guys. I think we're going to see a pretty wide groove from the get-go. And might I say, this is the first day race at Richmond in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series history.
It provides some excitement on Sunday afternoon as well as last night. It was an exciting race for sure, and kind of one of the side stories that we ended up talking about last night that I'm looking forward to finding out here this evening, Brian, is the probability or the plausibility, whatever word you want to use, of the outside lane of the racetrack. The inside, no doubt, the place you want to be at the start of the race here, but Justin mentioning that the rubber going to be carrying over from our practice session through qualifying and over to the race. You can already see that line getting rubbered in on the inside of the racetrack, that outside. Well, I don't think it became an entire lane. We did see it get used a couple of times last night. That could be crucial when you get down to a couple of late race restarts for guys on the outside being able to work that outside in from the start of the race, get a rubber in, see what they can do up there, and make sure that this does not become a one-lane race.
Yeah, I think the fact that RSR has elected to carry the rubber over from each session into the race is going to play a factor in that, because the track, as you mentioned, has already got a lot of rubber on it, which means they're already going to have that second groove working once we get the race started. I have a feeling you're going to see it take off a lot quicker tonight than we saw last night in the Ascors race, and I think that's going to help this race for later on in the race, because there's going to be that much more rubber on the track, which is going to allow that second groove to work just a little bit better. So I think tonight you might actually see it play more of a factor than we did last night. And these guys, I'm sure several of them tuned in to watch the Ascors race. I know a couple of these guys were actually in that race last night, so they already know what to expect, and that's going to help as well. We know Anthony DeBarro was one of those drivers that was in there. He had a decent performance last night, didn't get the finish he was looking for, but had a good run for most of the night.
And he's proven that speed carrying over to tonight, because again, he's been the fastest driver so far on the speed charts since they pulled into Richmond earlier this evening. Most of the drivers getting qualifying now out of the way, and as we get set to drop the hammer on 180 laps, we'll go trackside for tonight's opening ceremonies, and now with Jaden Berkey for the performance of this evening's national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star
Let's take a look trackside at your LSRTV starting grid for the Full Throttle Cup Series Richmond 180. That speed carries over from last night to tonight. Anthony DeBarro fastest in practice. He locks up the pole position with a 21.731. The number 9 Chevrolet will start for the inside of the front row and bring us to the American Ethanol green flag this evening. He'll be joined on the front row by the number 70 of Scott Eckridge, rolling off in second. David Washington, the Aegis Motorsports Toyota, going to roll tonight from third spot. The 96 of Mitch Rollo going to be outside row 2 and 4th. And Greg Evans, a solid qualifying effort for the number 23 team. They'll roll from P5.
Sixth spot going to go to the defending champion, the 13 Haviland entry of Dwayne Vincent. Carl Shedd in the 45. He'll roll off 7th. 8th to the 5 of Dan Murray. 9th to 91 of Steve Goschalk. 54 Tim Matthews rounds out your top 10.
Glenn Campbell's going to start in the 11th position here tonight. Corbin Hemstreet will start P12. Bobby Terrell is going to start 13th. Nelson Rivera will be 14th. And Stefan Marinac will start P15.
16th going to be the Pepsi Chevrolet Thomas J. George. Mike Kelly in 17th position. 18th going to be for Christopher Hurlow. Doug Roth 19th and Scott Simley in 20th.
21st to 34, Sean Boundy, the 88 of Kyle Tarasca, going to roll off 22nd, 23rd to Rhett McBride in the 2. Adam Whittel, 24th, 25th. Rest of the starting screen going to roll off your screen there as the pace car gets ready to come down to pit. No, wait, another whole lap coming, guys. Joseph Tice going to round out the 25th starting spot, and from there on back, the 26th spot going to go to the 51 of Nick Silver. The 1 of Sean Castro, 27, 28, 92 of Jason Lester. The 29 machine, Brendan Mercer, he'll roll off 29. And the 30th spot goes to the 48 of Kevin Linden.
Final 2 times of the qualifying charts. Jimmy North going to be 31st and 32nd for Ross Cato. And in the provisionals, going to be extended 33rd Chad Cole, Matt Lacrosse in 34th, rounding out your top 35. Going to be the number 90 of Daniel E. Eberhardt. Scott Stenzel, 36. Jose Gonzalez in 37th position. Mike Montesi, 38th. And Douglas Wyatt back on row number 20 in the number 39 position. We're about set to rock and roll on LSRTV and iRacing Live. The pace car in green flag and a fly the FTC Richmond 180 underway to turn number 1 for the first time this evening. And your race leader, no problems getting out in front of the field. Anthony DeBarro going to take a commanding lead. 3 car lengths at a turn number 2. Inside for Scott Eckridge. He'll go to the number 2 spots. Lines up in front of Mitch Rollo and David Washington. He'll take third away for the 96. Now your top 5 single file to complete the first 3 quarters of the lap.
Yeah, first action back on the track will be around the 15 of Scott Simley. That's going to be around for P20. He's working to the inside of Kyle Tarasca. Doug Roth thought about taking him 3 wide there for the moment. The 34 of Sean Boundy, all grouped together with these guys from about P17 or so on back. These guys 2 wide, mixing it up almost 3 wide as they head off turns turn 3.
And these guys like to be able to duck to the inside coming off at turn 4. This quad oval, if you will, the front stretch, more of a D-shaped oval like you'll see on a larger scale at a Michigan International Speedway or at an Auto Club Speedway. The inside wide open coming off the corner. The question is if your car can rotate to the inside. Everybody up front playing nice for the most part. A little bit of battling going on towards the back. Doug Roth, number 43, the STP entry. He's on the inside of the Sprite Chevrolet. Outside for Sean Boundy. That is a battle for the number 21 spot. And the outside with the advantage that time at the start finish on it. You're right on board with the 43 Chevrolet on the bottom. You can see the advantage that he gets Brian into the corner. But on the outside, they get an advantage down the straightaway coming off the banking.
Yeah, you're really seeing that, like I said earlier, that the outside line is already getting a little bit of use up there. They're able to make that run down the straightaways here. You see the number 34 of Sean Boundy trying to make that outside line work yet again. Doug Roth is able to really roll through the middle of the corner, but off the corner, he's just not able to get the momentum that he needs. He's almost clear of Sean Boundy. He actually will be here this time. But that outside line is already starting to come in, and I think the longer this race gets, the more you're going to see that happening. You're really going to see that outside groove, especially down in 3 and 4. That's where you're going to see it the most. It's really going to start coming into play, and that's probably going to become the preferred groove.
Guys up front continue to run single file. They try to spread things out and get a green flying nature to this race early. DeBarro not out in front by much more than he was when he went to turn 1 for the first time. He still sits just about 2.5, 3 car lengths in front of Scott Eckridge in P2. David Washington keeping him honest as well, the 98 in third. Those guys, while they are single file, are lined up in a pretty good line down the back straightaway. Battle inside the top 20, the 99 stuck at the outside of the racetrack. That's Stefan Baranek. He qualified in 15th. He's already lost 2 spots so far. Kyle Tarasca trying to make it a third. The 88 Chevy puts the Chick-fil-A entry to the inside of the racetrack, and they'll go door to door. 99 going to have a nose at the start-finish line once again. Watch for that 88 on the inside, though. Try to take advantage of into the corner. They got a little bit tight. It's getting fun. 5 seconds off of the top spot.
And they're still drag racing down the back straightaway as they sail off towards turn number 3. Tarasca going to put his tires right down on that yellow line. That middle groove seems to be working right now for the 99 machine of Stefan Marinak. He's still holding strong on the outside. These two still going wheel to wheel as they drag race towards 1.
That battle going to continue on, and again, the outside not being a complete lane, but having the ability to raise some hell to the guys on the inside of the racetrack is what allows them to stay side by side for 2-3 laps at a time. But finally, the number 88 of Kyle Tarasca on the inside wins that battle, moves Tarasca up 5. He does drop Marinak down, now a 3rd spot from the start of the race. One of the bigger movers, more northbound, Corbin Hemstreet picks up his 3rd position on the night. He breaks inside of the top 10 in the 9th spot with a pass on Steve Gottschalk.
Looking back up towards the front of the field at the moment, Anthony DeBarro just got a big run off turn number 4 to open up a gap over the 70 of Scott Eckridge, who a lap ago was right there beating down the back deck lid of DeBarro. The front 4 all nose to tail, separated by about a full second from about 4th place Mitch Roll all the way back to the 23 of Greg Evans, who's trying to hold off the defending champ in the 13 of Dwayne Vincent. Those guys, right now, they're nose to tail, but any moment right now, these guys can decide to start mixing it up. Everybody playing nice thus far in the early going. 11 laps complete, getting ready to put 12 in the books. Field on the back straightaway.
And spreading out now 4 seconds for P1 through P10. Gottschalk in that final spot inside of the top 10, back 1 spot after Hemstreet took it from just 3 to 4 laps ago. But other than that, not a lot of movement northbound. 1 through 8 sit exactly where they started. DeBarro, Eckridge, Washington, Rollo, Evans through 5th. Dwayne Vincent, Carl Shedd, and Ann Murray 6, 7, and 8. No changes for position inside of the top 8 so far in this race. They all look pretty evenly matched, Brian. Normally you'll see in these first couple of laps that we are seeing a lot of it mid-pack, guys that maybe out-qualified their race trim, or guys that maybe didn't get the best time they got in just that 2-lap qualifying session, going to try to pick up some time. But it looks like the guys who qualified inside those top 8 basically qualified where they belong. Not a whole lot of action going on. Again, they are fairly close. Your top 4 are still within 1 second of each other, but nobody really getting side by side or getting on each other's bumper and challenging quite yet.
Yeah, I think right now everybody's just trying to figure out what this car is going to do over the course of the long run. For the guys that ran in other series over the weekend, they already have an idea, but several of these drivers are turning their first laps in race conditions here tonight, so you're just trying to see these guys trying to figure the thing out. We do have a nice little battle back there between Dan Murray in the 5 and Carl Shedd in the 45. They're battling for the 7th and 8th position right now. Dan Murray's trying to work that middle groove in through 3 and 4. We see him doing that. He looks low going into turn 1. Not going to be able to make anything happen right now, but they're trying to mix things up a little bit back here. I do want to take a second to talk about Chad Cole. He started back in the 33rd position, and 16 laps in, he really hasn't moved up too much. He's only up to the 29th position. That is not what I expected to see out of the number 8 machine. He's really strong on the short tracks, and to see him only having moved up 4 positions since the drop of the green, that's very surprising to me.
And they continue to fight for that spot, Shedd and Murray, but the gap again back to a car length that it's hard to close in that little bit more. Battle for the race lead getting interesting, though. Scott Eckridge got to the back bumper of Anthony DeBarro the last time around. This time they put lap number 17 of 180 to the books, so still young at the Richmond International Raceway, but clean and green from the drop of the green flag. And you take a look at the gap, not much more than about a quarter car length that time at a corner. Eckridge, though, not a good run coming off the corner as he drives drives it in a lot harder, trying to make up some time, and DeBarro really getting the run where he needs to, and that is coming off the corner. Saw a bobble last time by from the 24 of Thomas George. The Pepsi Chevrolet broke sideways coming after that final corner, drifted down about 3 lanes on the front stretch as he tried to catch the handle on his entry that runs right now in 13th position. We saw a lot of that happen last night as well.
Certainly, and what we're looking back up towards the front of the field for the lead, Anthony DeBarro gets a better drive that time by out of turn number 4. The number 70 is Scott Eckridge. He's been oh so close and trying to get to victory in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Looks to the inside of DeBarro. He's going to try to stick his nose down there. He looks like he has a better run out of turn number 2 that time by. He look right to the inside of DeBarro right now. These guys certainly trying to feel each other out as they work on the front stretch right now. And how about the 98 of David Washington? He quietly started third. He's right there hanging in the mix, just trying to wait for these guys to start mixing it up. Washington solid in that Aegis 98.
Battle for the number 10 spot. It looked like the 91 as Steve Gottschalk was going to get the upper hand on that. He was a car length in front of the 54 at Tim Matthews, the challenger on the inside. He overdrove the entry a little bit. The 54 cleared him coming out of turn 2. So Tim Matthews goes up to 10th spot. Gottschalk down for the second position this evening. Now back into the number 11 spot, and it puts him right in front of Thomas George. The 24 might have been talking about has been making a couple of moves tonight. He'll swing to the inside, and they'll go side by side for 11th. You see the 91 to get up on the outside of the racetrack, not even in a second groove, but almost 3 lanes up. It looked like he overdrove the corner, but he's able to get back to the gas that much sooner. He gets the power run, and he's cleared by 2 car lengths by the time we get back down to turn 2.
As Steve Gottschalk works back around the 24, Thomas George looking a little bit further back. Some guys mixing it up right now, right around that P. And I'm also hearing a little battle further up. The 45 of Carl Shedd hanging tough. He's trying to get hold off, the 69 of Corbin Himstreet. Himstreet right down on the bottom right there. He's digging hard on the bottom. He's wheel to wheel with the Shedd, and Shedd just going to let him go and let Himstreet move up to that A spot. And Dan Murray kind of moving up slowly. He's showing he's got a good long run car. He's driving that JBL audio machine. It's basically a direct scheme off the Christopher Bell entry in the Camping World Truck Series, and he's doing very well. Starting to pull away from Corbin a little bit, and he's starting to reel in the 13 of Dwayne Vincent and that Haviland Ford right up ahead.
The 13 begins to slide back just a little bit. You see the number 28 machine on the outside of the racetrack dropping it back and losing a lead lap status. Your leaders, not much of a difficulty getting to the inside on that 28 of Douglas Wyatt, who falls 1 lap down. He's the only driver 1 lap down besides Jimmy North. Problems early for the Cabela Chevy. Already 8 laps down. He's back in the pack in 39th spot. And that little bit of lap traffic on the outside of the racetrack neither benefited nor hurt DeBarro or Eckridge. They both caught it at a turn number 4, so the gap going to remain about 1.5 car lengths between the 9 and the 70, but that 70 might be a little bit quicker, Brian, because we're starting to see these guys stack up. David Washington, he's gone from being 5 or 6 tenths back to just sitting 3 tenths back now, so the 70 might be a little bit faster than the 9, or the 9 of DeBarro might be just slowing down a little bit when it comes to the long run speed, but having a little bit of a speed difference doesn't make it easy for getting the inside of position to try to pass him.
No, and one thing that we've always been able to say, it's one thing to catch a driver, it's a whole nother thing to pass one, and you see that right here. Scott Eckridge has caught up and is right on the back bumper of Anthony DeBarro, but it's going to be very difficult for him to get by Anthony. He's one of those guys that he may know that he's slower, but 9 times out of 10, he's not just going to pull over and let you go. He's going to make you work for it, and that's what makes racing exciting, but it can also be very frustrating if you're that driver that is tracking him down and trying to get by. You see Scott now trying to move up to that middle groove. David Washington stuck it in there for a moment, did not have the momentum that he needed, but had the opportunity, just wasn't able to capitalize.
He was looking because that 70 machine of Scott Eckridge, he knows that he's going after the 9 of Anthony DeBarro, and you saw that time in 1 even. 70 gets a little bit hot into the corner, trying to dig on that 9, almost forgetting about the 9 to David Washington behind. The inside open up, and an Aegis Toyota thought about it. didn't fully commit. It was a good idea because Scott Eckridge came right back down and shut the door. But they're going to continue to do battle. I want to see if Mitch Rollo can get in this conversation. The 96 sitting just behind this hole. Not quite up to David Washington yet, but he's within striking distance. You'll have to look over 2.5 seconds nearly back. P5 to find Greg Evans, but your top 4, throw them under a blanket, and the battle for the race lead continues at lap number 31, and another time at a turn number 4 again. We see Anthony DeBarro with a little bit of a bobble. You got to think, Justin, he's feeling the pressure. How about a shot that time? The 70th Scott Eckridge, he wants to go, and that's the warning shot that time. No change for position, but I can tell you Anthony DeBarro felt that one.
He felt it, and he's got a little bit of damage on the back left quarter panel and the bumper on board that number 9 machine. Oh, it gets really loose there and saves it. He's going to stay in the race lead, but that's going to allow the 98 of David Washington to stick his nose to the inside of the 70 of Scott Eckridge. It's a drag race off turn 2. Wheel-to-wheel for P2 as they head into turn 3.
And again, the number 70 going to find himself just barely in front of the front bumper of the number 98 of David Washington, who continues to ride in third. And again, these guys have yet to swap up a position so far tonight. 1, 2, 3, and 4 to DeBarro, Eckridge, Washington, Rollo. It's exactly where they started. It is exactly where they run. But that 70 machine, who I thought was taking it fairly easy, Brian, on the attack up to the number 9 machine, all of a sudden said he wanted to give a shot to the number 9 and see what was going on. So you have to sense maybe a little bit of urgency from the 70. Maybe Eckridge realized that if he can't get the pass done for the race lead soon, that 98 of David Washington, who's really been putting the heat to him, might get tired of waiting around and kick him back.
Hey, you hit the nail on the head right there. That's exactly what he's doing. He knows that the number 90 of David Washington has a lot of speed in his car as well, and right now Anthony DeBarro is holding this entire line up. I don't think you can deny that at all. He's been holding these guys up for about the last 10 laps or so, and Scott's getting a little impatient. We saw him give him a shot. I think if he gets back to him, he might see him try it again. They did a great job hanging on to that right there, and that's what short track racing does to these guys. And we've been at short tracks for a few weeks now, and that's just how it kind of goes. And the more they run at these tracks, the more aggressive they're going to be. And then think about it this way. Next week we're going to go to Talladega, and it's going to be completely different from what they've been used to the last 2 weeks.
To the inside again, takes a peek, half a car length though. Not enough room to get the car to the inside unless he really wants to force it down and get halfway on the apron. But 37 laps in, now the 70 looks to the outside of the racetrack. We saw that a couple of times and not going to happen. It is a strategy though, again, outside, not the place to be entirely. But with that being said, the 70's going to try it, and now the second shot. I don't know if he quite got to the bumper, but that 9 machine, he knows he's there. And the question is now, Justin, is Anthony DeBarro holding off that 70? Is he just killing his own tires and kind of denying the inevitable, or does he have a legitimate shot at maybe contending to lead this thing for a good amount of time? Because that 70 does look much faster to the inside again. But yet again, DeBarro does not want to concede that inside lane.
Those two driving the wheels off their machines this far, very early in the event here, coming up around this time by. Going to put 39 into the books out of 180. And the 70 of Scott Eckridge just kind of backed that corner up a little bit or got in a little bit too hard. And that allowed the 98 of David Washington to get right to his back bumper and open up ahead of Eckridge, about a 3-car length gap between himself and DeBarro. DeBarro's tires are fading, guys, and I can tell you right now, Eckridge does have the faster car, but I don't think he has the patience necessary to make DeBarro make the first mistake. So really for DeBarro, he's just doing whatever he has to do to hold off the 70 of Eckridge. The 98 of Washington just tries to play the catbird seat right behind those two. He's waiting for those two drivers to make the mistake.
40 laps in already, and over the radio, these guys starting to discuss a little bit of lap traffic so far. We've only seen Dan Murray, Douglas Wyatt go 1 lap down. They're 37th and 38th position. Once we see your race leader DeBarro catch up to, who's going to be Mike Montesi here, running in 36th position. With that being said, it's going to be a constant flow of lap traffic, and when you get into these short track races, Brian, once you start to catch the back of the pack here, it's going to be non-stop lap traffic for the most of the race. You see the number 5 machine in a battle right now, and problems on the back straightaway for Dan Murray. We already mentioned that he's 1 lap down, got out of shape down the back, no yellow. He was on the apron, and he'll be the 3rd driver to fall 1 lap to the negative. But it's going to be a lot of lap traffic for DeBarro to deal with. That 70 of Scott Eckridge might have to try to set something up here, take advantage of that scenario.
And that certainly is the case. We seen just a lap or so ago with the 70 of Scott Eckers, the 98 of Washington, had to get around the 31 machine, who is a lap down, and going to bring this opportunity to bring in the fourth member of the broadcast crew tonight, Jacob Silman. Jacob, you're sitting here watching the opening laps unfold here. These drivers getting very aggressive in the early going, and you know it's probably not going to end all that well for the 70 of Eckridge and the 90 to borrow the way they're battling on the racetrack at the moment.
Well, if I were these top two, I'd be more worried about the guy sitting third watching this and licking his chops. David Washington's been the fastest car on the racetrack the last couple of laps, but he's had nowhere to put the speed because he's been locked behind this battle between the top two. Eckridge is there. We know he's faster than DeBarro. DeBarro is the weak link in this entire chain right now, and that 9, I promise you, it's only a matter of time. We're crossing quarter distance right now. He's going to lose the lead at some point. It's just a matter of when Scott Eckridge decides to deliver that third strike, as we call it in short track racing, and give him the shot to not just try and shake him up for the lead, but just flat out moves him for the lead, Brian. It's coming.
At 9, he's continuing to run out in front, and you can tell Scott Eckridge wants it. You see the left rear quarter panel at the 9? Yeah, that's courtesy of the number 7 who runs right now into P2. More lap traffic to the outside, and again, this time it benefits DeBarro. It's going to be a constant back and forth, but your pole sitter continues to lead past a quarter distance already in the FTC. Richmond 180 will step away for a brief moment, come back to RIR in just a second. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the 2016 Real Series Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, it's what I do best.
Welcome back, everybody, to LSRTV's live coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, coming to you live from the Richmond International Raceway for 180 lap distance battle for the lead. The 9 Anthony DeBarro gets loose going around the 29 of Brennan Mercer. That's going to allow the 70 of Scott Eckridge to get back around. Pit stop's actually underway. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. And Brian, going to be interesting to see some people trying to short pit this strategy here. 100 laps is what we were told was the fuel distance. These guys just trying to get their cars made adjustments and whatnot and get themselves back underway. But DeBarro, 1.1 seconds over his teammate, the 96 of Rollo. But you have to wonder, with as good as new tires are, how long do you stay out?
Yeah, I don't think you can really afford to stay out too very long. While we were away at commercial break, we saw a lot of our front runners come to pit road. Scott Eckridge being one of those in that number 70 machine. He came in and got 4 fresh tires and fuel, and he's back out there right now trying to make up time. The way this is going to work out is if the caution comes out now, it's going to really hurt those guys because they're trapped a lap down at the moment. And actually, Scott Eckridge just unlapped himself. He's 9th, 21 seconds behind the leader. He just got back on the lead lap. So it will still be at a disadvantage to them because he was running up inside the top 3, and right now he's sitting back in 9th. However, if this thing stays green like it has through the first 65 laps, he's going to have a tremendous lead over Anthony DeBarro and Mitch Rollo and the rest of these guys, and David Washington's actually ahead of him by about 3 seconds. Those 2 drivers are going to have a very big lead over Anthony DeBarro. They may actually lap them at this point in the juncture because they're going to be on pit road for about 45 seconds, and they're only 20 seconds behind Anthony DeBarro and Mitch Rollo. So this could really be a disastrous move by Anthony and Mitch if they stay out there too much longer.
Okay, driver, if you're the 9 and the 96, then what do you do? What strategy do you play to win this race at this point, knowing that you're going to lose some time right here?
Well, I think once you saw drivers coming to pit roads, you need to be coming down with them and trying to get your fresh tires as soon as possible, because we've seen this race play out already where it's going to be a long green flag stint. We haven't really seen any cautions, so there's no reason to believe that we're going to start seeing cautions now. That makes me believe that you just need to come and get your tires. I know what Anthony and Mitch are doing. They're staying out here hoping that they're going to see a caution and be able to keep their track position, but if they don't get a caution, this is really going to backfire.
And it's a game of you play your strategy, Justin, you stick with it, and you see if it works. If the circumstances play in their favor, Anthony and Mitch can make this work out. The problem is, I think right now what these guys are betting on, they're really betting on this cycling and going green almost the entire way. I think that's about the only way that this strategy that they're trying to employ right now is actually going to work.
Yeah, we've seen it happen once before in the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series this past season. We've seen it go green to checkers just about the entire length of the race there, and those drivers that tried to pull off a 3-stop strategy had to certainly fend off the drivers that were on a 4-stopper, because what we thought was going to become the hunted were actually the guys that were the hunters, because they were charging hard late and just kind of ran out of time. So for these guys on the 1-stop strategy versus 2, it does kind of make sense, but you have to realize that the ebb and flow of lap traffic really going to hinder drivers like the 9 Anthony DeBarro and the 96 of Mitch Rollo, as Rollo really starting to fade, as he still has another 20 laps or so before he can hit to really kind of make any advantage gain. But as I say, that the 70 of Scott Eckridge, he's on new tires. He unlapped himself a few laps ago. He's already 13 seconds behind Anthony DeBarro and closing fast.
And the traffic could be Anthony's undoing before he ever gets to pit road. The one of Sean Casto, who just unlapped himself in 12th right now, and Anthony's got a stream of them going by right now. Tim Matthews, Casto. Oh, there it is. Caution! Here we go, Justin. It plays out in a way. We have 13 cars on the lead lap right now. 72 laps complete when they come to the caution, and DeBarro gets a break here.
The 25 at Joseph Tice is the car that's sitting around in the middle of the turns 3 and 4. Going to put us underneath the caution line for the first time here tonight. And the field going to get slowed up. And we were thinking about this as we were just talking about it. And replay going up on your screen, you're going to see what happened to the 25 machine. You know, it was kind of a bit of a strategy call there, and I really think that for drivers like the 90 Eberhardt, he's going to have to take the waiver on if he has any hope of getting back up front where he's normally accustomed to running.
And this is going to spark pit stops, Brian, and Anthony DeBarro, he's going to be glad for this service because not only does this caution pin a lot of very quick guys a lap down, he finally gets some fresh virtual Goodyear Racing Eagles on that car. And with the way he was sliding around for much of that opening stint, I can promise you that's a welcome feeling.
Well, he's welcoming it for a number of reasons. That's one, but also for the fact that he's not going to end up losing that race lead and being as far behind as he was probably going to be if he had to come to pit road under green. He's in his pit box now, getting his 4 fresh tires and fuel. We're going to see if he can come out as the race leader. Dwayne Vincent was also into his pit box, going to try to get a good pit stop here. The left sides are up on both of those drivers. It looks like Anthony DeBarro is easily going to win the race off pit road. Dwayne Vincent will be following him very shortly behind him there. So that's your race off the pit lane. Mitch Rollo comes out third, and then you have Carl Shedden fourth.
So under caution, we're going to take the opportunity to quickly step away once again and do a little bit of business for our sponsors, but we will continue with more coverage from Richmond International Raceway right after this. Right now, you're watching the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Vibe by Sim Experience. Stay with us. Anthony DeBarro, your leader.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks and terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to the coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Vibe by Sim Experience on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Jacob Seelman, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin still on the call here tonight as we are wrapping up the first caution flag of the evening at lap number 78. Delayed the caution just a moment to get everybody re-racked and restacked, and Anthony DeBarro, in the number 9 Pit Stop Designs Chevrolet has led every one of the 78 laps we've completed so far. He jumps on the loud pedal, coming back to the American Ethanol green flag, and brings his teammate Mitch Rollo right along for the ride with him as we return to racing conditions, working lap 79. It's DeBarro, then Rollo, then the defending champ Dwayne Vincent slots into third. The field goes to turn 3.
Field setting off through turns 3 and 4. The 23 of Greg Evans going to work to the inside of the 45 of Carl Shedd. Those two going wheel to wheel down the front stretch right there. And the 45 of Carl Shedd, he's going to take the high side. He's going to try to make it work. We've seen it last night in the Ascourse Pro Geek Consulting Cup Series here on LSRTV. And the outside lane works fine for about 5 or 6 laps. Then everybody else wants to settle back on the bottom. But it's still Evans and Shedd with the 70 of Eckers sticking his nose into the mix.
Yeah, these guys are racing really hard here on this restart. You see everybody trying to get everything. Scott Eckridge back there in the number 70 machine. He is trying to close in on Carl Shedd and Greg Evans in front of him, trying to make something happen to make up some positions after the pit stops. You see Thomas George back there right behind him, also just got very aggressive going off into turn 3, trying to get underneath that number 45 of Carl Shedd. He was not able to make the pass for the time being, but he is still working very hard on him right now. And Scott Eckridge has a lot of work to do. He was running up inside the top 3 before this caution kind of messed everything up for him. He's going to have a lot of work to get back up there to challenge Anthony DeBarro.
By the way, Justin, did we mention that before we went back green there were about 13 to 15 drivers that all took the wave around to get back on the lead lap? So we again have close to 30 guys that are scrambling for position here on the same lap as Anthony DeBarro. We're going to keep rolling as Christopher Hurlow, a little squirrely in the pack. He's worked his way, Brian, solidly inside the top 10 now all of a sudden. Just lost a position to former teammate Corbin Hemstreet in the 69. Those two having a little bit of a scrap for a brief moment, but it's trouble right now for the 69 because Corbin's got some speed. He's trying to roll that outside lane, but there's not enough there to be able to do anything, and he's almost going now to the inside. He's looking for 9th. He had the run on Mike Kelly, has to give it up here as Thomas George now the one hung on that outside.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because the outside line has a lot of grip up there. I'm very surprised to see these guys struggling to make it work here at this point of the run. We saw a lot of people being able to use it during that long green flag run that opened this race out. And you see Thomas George right there off turn 4. He got a good run off the corner and down the straightaway. And he has done a very good job here on the outside line, holding off Corbin Hemstreet right now for the moment. These guys are racing really hard back here for the 9th and 10th position. Corbin Hemstreet was working his way towards the front in that first green flag run, so if he can get closer to the front, I think he could be a contender for this race victory. Meanwhile, a little bit further up, Scott Eckridge has worked his way up inside the top 5 after having been knocked back around the 10th position before this caution came out, so he is slowly but steadily marching his way back to the front.
He's got 1.8 seconds, though, if he wants to get to that position that Anthony DeBarro has held the entire way. We are 3 laps from the halfway point, and we've started to see the contenders and the pretenders, and I'd say right now all the contenders from the top 7, Brian. Those top 7, though, a few of them have changed positions around over the course of these first 88 laps. They ride in the same 7 positions that they started this race in, somewhere between 1st and 7th. So the guys who started up front have had the speed tonight.
Yeah, that's certainly been the case all night long, and that's typical of Richmond. Typically, the guys that start towards the front are your front runners all night long. This is such a rhythmic track. You have to have a rhythm in qualifying to be fast, and you have to have a rhythm in the race to be fast. And typically, you see those guys that start up front, they have that rhythm for the short run, they have that rhythm for the long run, and they tend to stay where they started. We see that in real life a lot. We see that here as well, and that has definitely been the situation here tonight. Anthony DeBarro has done a very good job hanging on to the race lead, despite not necessarily having the fastest car in the long run. We saw Mitch Rollo and David Washington and Scott Eckridge all over the back of him on that long green flag run, but none of them were able to get by him. However, I will say, Scott Eckridge, he laid a bumper to him early on. That was with 150 laps to go, and he hit him just hard enough to move him up off the bottom of the racetrack. If we get down inside 10 to go and he's that close, I think he's going to hit him a little bit harder and really try to get him out of control.
Halfway, we just crossed lap number 9. 90, and Anthony DeBarro has led every single one of them here so far. He's got about a half-second lead over Mitch Rollo as we're going to take our Gary Mercer Trucking midway race break. With 91 laps complete, DeBarro, your leader, Rollo rides second. The defending champ, Dwayne Vincent, is third. David Washington, fourth. And Scott Eckridge is fifth. Greg Evans, sixth. Mike Kelly is seventh. Corbin Hemstreet, eighth. Carl Shedd is ninth. And Thomas George, 10th.
Sitting in the 11th position is Christopher Hurlow. He's back there trying to make his way up inside the top 10. He started 18th. Sean Casto from 27th up to 12th right now. Great run for Sean Casto so far. Tim Matthews sits 13th. Stefan Marinak is 14th. Sean Boundy is in the 15th position. Kyle Taraska, he started 22nd. He's only up to the 16th position right now. Daniel E. Eberhart and Chad Cole, they both took provisionals at the beginning of this race, starting 35th and 33rd. They're now sitting 17th and 18th on the leaderboard right now. They're making their way slowly but surely to the front. Nick Silver is 19th, and Scott Sinley rounds out the top 20.
21st going to be Rhett McBride. Nelson Rivera 22nd. 23rd Bobby Terrell. 24th is Doug Roth. And 25th Steve Gottschalk. Matt Lacrosse was 26th. 27th Scott Stenzel. Last car on the lead lap. Jose Gonzalez is 28th. Adam Blattle 29th. And Glenn Campbell is 30th.
And the rest of these drivers are all at least one lap down. A couple of them are actually already out of the race. 31st goes to Brennan Mercer. Ross Cato is in the 32nd position. Kevin Linden is 33rd. 34th is Douglas Wyatt. Jason Lester is 35th. He's 3 laps down. Mike Montesi is 6 laps down. Jimmy North is 9 laps down in 37th. And the last 2 drivers are already out of the race. That's Dan Murray in 38th and Joseph Tice in 39th. They have had an early exit to this race. Those 2 drivers actually had a little bit of contact. They were the reason for our first caution, and it looks like that neither of them were able to get their cars repaired, and they have both left the race for the evening. So unfortunate for those guys, but we have a race up front right now. Anthony DeBarro has opened up about a half a second gap over Mitch Rollo, but right behind him there's a hornet's nest. Mitch Rollo, Dwayne Vincent, David Washington, and Scott Eckridge. You can just about throw a blanket over those 4 drivers, Jacob. They have been racing really hard the last 10 laps or so, trying to figure out who's going to get up there and challenge Anthony.
Right now, it looks like none of them, because DeBarro seems to have everybody's number. With 97 laps complete, that was a look at your Gary Mercer Trucking midway race break presented by gmercer.com. Gary Mercer Trucking's been providing reliable logistical services since 1982 with over-the-road, less-than-load, and full truckload freight services between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. With certifications and expertise in cross-border freight that ensure your products get to their destination on time and on budget, Gary Mercer Trucking is the leading name in freight. Right now, closing in on 80 laps to go here at Richmond, and the fast 3/4 mile has seen Anthony DeBarro dominate tonight. 99 laps in, he's led them all, and we've only had 1 caution flag to slow the pace. We're going to take a quick pause here on LSRTV and come back for more from Richmond right after this. You're watching coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Vibe by Sim Experience on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
The 2016 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series is all about change. New teams, new drivers, new tracks, even a new logo. And oh yeah, there's a brand new car. After 5 years of competition, we say goodbye to the Williams FW31 and we say hello to the McLaren MP430. But this isn't just a brand new car, it's a whole new ballgame. And with it, we bring new excitement, new strategies, new technology. For example, energy recovery and drag reduction systems. There's a new way of thinking about racing, and for all the drivers participating, it's back to the drawing board, wiping the slate clean in the ever-consuming pursuit of perfection. One little slip-up, one wrong move on track, one poor strategy call, and it's over. That's the difference between coming up short and becoming champion, and being $10,000 richer to boot. So yeah, change is in the air, but we're going to start getting answers on the 27th of February as the 7th year of iRacing World Championship competition kicks off. And you won't miss a thing. with every single race live on iRacing Live, coverage brought to you by RaceBot.TV. So join us fortnightly from 1:30 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back to LSRTV and iRacing Live. Anthony DeBarro, the leader at Richmond International Raceway, as we roll closer to conclusion in tonight's Richmond 180 for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience. And want to give a shout out to the RSR partners at SimVibe. Sim Experience is a premier motion simulator manufacturer with expertise in electronics, engineering, manufacturing, and software development, whose products are utilized worldwide in driver training facilities, homes, simulation centers, and race driver development programs. For more information on how you can get involved, visit www.simexperience.com today. Right now, Justin Rosenau, Anthony DeBarro has been the man in charge for 114 laps of 114 laps. So the question now is, with 75 to go, check that, 65 to go, if I can get my math straight this time by, who steps up to stop him right here?
Really, the one driver I've seen thus far that's really impressed me as the stages have wore on into the race is going to be that driver, the defending champion of this series in the Haviland Ford, the number 13 of Dwayne Vincent, as he almost lays the bumper to the back end amidst Rollo. He's going to try to have to figure something out, but the 90 Eberhardt, he's right there, and he's trying to hang on, but he's a lap down. But leaders coming to pit road. DeBarro and Rollo hit the pit lane.
We knew it was coming eventually, and now it comes right here with 115 laps complete. Anthony DeBarro finally gives up the race lead for the first time to make his pit stop. Brian, the two teammates are in, and Dwayne Vincent goes to the lead. If you're Boomtown Sim, DeBarro and Rollo, what do you do here?
Well, I mean, they're doing exactly what they needed to do. They're getting 4 tires and fuel. This is an opposite strategy to what we saw them do at the beginning of this race. Earlier on, we had that long green flag run. They stayed out when everybody else started coming to pit road. They stayed out on old tires and ended up giving a lot of time on the racetrack to everybody else, and they decided they weren't going to do it this time. They came to pit road. They were the first ones.
The two teammates were squeezing each other off the exit of pit lane, Justin, and I thought they were going to hit right there. DeBarro got loose off the exit of pit lane, and Mitch Rollo almost had nowhere to go. Look at Rollo to the bottom of the racetrack. First time tonight anybody's had speed to go and maybe flat out past the 9, and it's his teammate trying to do the job.
DeBarro made a critical mistake getting down into 1 and 2. He got the back end a little bit wheel hoppy loose there. The back end trying to swap ends with the front, and DeBarro pinching his teammate down a little bit off of turn number 4, and that's going to allow DeBarro to pull back in front. You got to wonder if we're going to see some Joe Gibbs Racing-esque type moves here as the race starts to wear on, as I do believe we are lap 120 right now on the board and complete, so 60 laps to go here in this 180-lap affair.
Oh boy, Brian, and these two teammates are not giving each other any heed right now. They ride 14th and 15th, the first two cars 1 lap down. Meanwhile, the party at the front of the field is and Dwayne Vincent out in front in a heap of traffic, and he's got David Washington and Scott Eckridge all over his back deck lid.
Yeah, those guys are racing hard for the lead, assuming that the caution's going to come out and keep them up there in this track position and keep them in a position to win the race. However, for Anthony DeBarro and Mitch Rollo, they're expecting this thing to play out and stay green, and if it does, that could be the race for the victory. Those two are going to be on fresh tires for a little while over the rest of these guys, which is going to allow them to get quite a lead over these guys that are battling for the race lead right now, Dwayne Vincent and David Washington and Scott Eckridge. They're going to have probably somewhere in the vicinity of an 8 to 10 second lead, depending on how much longer these guys stay out. So they're racing hard, expecting that this is going to be the race for the victory. These other guys up here, though, like we're seeing right now, as David Washington is trying to do everything he can to get around the lap traffic so he can get up there and challenge. And we have an accident, actually. I'm hearing the number 23 machine is in the wall. Greg Evans had a little bit of contact with the outside wall. He is straight, no caution for the time being. Now the number 34 gets contact. He's 84. Jimmy North is around. Caution should be coming out. There it is.
There's the yellow. We knew it was coming, and we figured it was coming when all these guys would make pit stops, and it does at lap 124. Caution flag for just the second time tonight as Dwayne Vincent comes underneath the yellow rag. Jimmy North tagged, leaving pit road, nose first into the inside wall, and now the same thing happens to DeBarro and Rollo as happened to Scott Eckridge earlier. They get pinned a lap down and are going to have to fight for the fences here.
Certainly looks like it will be the case here. Are they going to stay out and take the wave out, or will DeBarro actually just take the lucky dog pass there? As the leaders hit pit road, all the leaders right now coming down to pit road for what they hope to be the final stop of the evening.
Yeah, you see Dwayne Vincent, David Washington, Scott Eckridge leading the charge on the pit road. Only 9 cars on the lead lap right now, so you're only going to see 9 cars on pit road getting service to their cars this time by. Anthony DeBarro will get the lucky dog, so he's going to get back on the lead lap, and we'll see who takes the wave around. Meanwhile, back at pit road, Dwayne Vincent is in his pit stall. He led him to the pit stalls. He's got his 2 right sides done. He's working on the left sides now. He's got a very clean stop going for the time being. Going to try to win this race off pit road. He's down and away. It does look like, however, he's going to get beat off of pit road by David Washington and possibly Scott Eckridge as well. It looks like they both got him.
David Washington takes 2 tires to win the race off pit road, along with Scott Eckridge, I believe. Vincent comes off. Check that. Eckridge had a lightning stop. I don't know where his 4 tires came from, Justin, but that was brilliant pit work if I've ever seen anything for that number 70 host. That was an unbelievable stop.
Unbelievable stop, yeah. Yeah, and the 98 of David Washington slid through his pit stall, backed it up, and only took 2 tires to keep his track position on the racetrack at the moment as it stands. Right now, I do believe several drivers are going to take the wave around as we get the 1-to-go signal here in about a lap or so right now. The 96 of Mitch Rollo going to be the first car of that group to take the wave around right now. The 9 of Anthony DeBarro being shown on the lead lap already as the Lucky Dog car, but he's going to have to restart tail end of the longest line. He's not going to have a whole lot of time to get there. He's going to need some help with some caution flags.
Yeah, I want to go back to that pit stop by David Washington. I was watching that as it happened, and he actually slid through his box, and it almost looked like he couldn't get the car in gear, and it took him 3 or 4 seconds before he was able to get the car backed up. And when he did get backed up, he had already lost a ton of time on pit road, which is what made him elect to go for the 2-tire call. I'm a little confused by that decision, however, because there was only 9 cars on the lead lap and only 9 cars on pit road, so he wouldn't have lost a terrible amount of track position by going ahead and getting the 4 fresh tires. And to top that off, they had a very big lead over the 4th place car that came on pit road, being Greg Evans. I don't think he would have fallen any worse than maybe 4th or 5th if he decided to sit there and take the 4 tires. I have a feeling this is going to backfire on him because tires have meant quite a bit here tonight, and I just don't see this working out for him. I have a feeling he's going to wish he had taken those 2 left sides, because I do believe he's going to end up falling through the field if we get a long green flag run.
Yeah, I don't like this call either, Brian. I'm very much in the same boat with you on that one. Eckridge, though, going to line up as the provisional race leader once it all goes back under the green flag here in a lap or so. David Washington going to line up second, Dwayne Vincent third, Greg Evans and Carl Shedd the top 5. How about the best run from Boomtown Sim right now being the rookie in 6th? Chad Cole 7th, Kyle Taraska 8th, Nick Silver 9th, and then there's Anthony DeBarro, who had gotten the Lucky Dog under this caution, going to round out the top 10 and have a very, very long road to hoe, Justin, if he's going to want to get to the front. Just 50 laps to go by the time we get back under racing conditions.
Yes, indeed, as the pace car lights get ready to go off on the American Childhood Cancer Organization pace car, the 70 of Scott Eckridge with that amazing pit stop going to have the control position. He will restart inside. The 98 of David Washington will indeed actually restart to the outside, as we see the 96 of Mitch Rollo. Don't know what's going on there, if he's being given a wave for some reason or another, and the lights going back on the pace car, possibly. No, the lights are actually off on the pace car. We'll get ready to restart as the field enters turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's going to be Eckridge and Washington on the front row for this one, but all eyes going to be on the 9 of Anthony DeBarro and company back there from 10th on back. Scott Eckridge isn't waiting around, though. Green flag flies for this American Ethanol restart with 50 laps to go. Eckridge is gone, Vincent's coming through to second, and Dave Washington finds a way to slot into third as everybody goes single file, while back about 5 rows, DeBarro is trying to find himself a lane, and he's having to restart, about 17th to try to come forward here.
That's the, I wouldn't call it a benefit, but it is the consequence of being the lucky dog and taking your free pass. You will restart. And at the longest line, Scott Eckridge out to kind of an amazing restart lead as the 13 of Dwayne Vincent clears the 98 of Washington, who is on 2 tires. And the gap right now going to be almost a half a second at the stripe. Scott Eckridge going to try to set sail in the late stages of this one.
He's trying, and it's working temporarily. The question's going to be, how long can he do it without burning his stuff up? As we continue, we're going to watch this battle for the lead. I think the fun part is going to be the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th behind him. David Washington's got a teammate in Carl Shedd back there, but Chad Cole had some steam, and Cole's knocking on the back deck lid. He wants inside. The 45 of Carl Shedd for 4th. Shedd trying to throw the block, and the DeWalt machine is coming forward. Now look at Nick Silver and the 51 to the inside. Battle for 5th off 4.
Jack Cole going to work as the 51 and Nick Silver going to look going 3 wide. He's going to think better of it at the 45. As Shed going to throw the block for his teammate as Washington drifts up the hill. Those 2 tires not holding strong very much at all as it's a 2-car Aegis sandwich blocking up the cars behind them. And the 51 is Silver on the bottom. The 8 of Chad Cole up top right behind them. The 23 of Greg Evans. He's going to try to stick his nose in the mix. It's a 5-way battle for the 3rd spot as they sail off towards 1.
And they're 2 by 2 by, well, Greg Evans is the lonely man out, Brian, and he's trying to roll the inside to make something happen. This is where I think, though, that 98 on the top side of David Washington is going to start to lose all his track position because they've got him pinned up to the top side of the racetrack. He is going nowhere.
Yeah, this is where having that 2 tires is really going to hurt him. This is what I was afraid of seeing happen to him on this run. He's gotten shuffled out to the outside line. He's going to lose a ton of positions here. Greg Evans to the inside now going to be able to make that pass cleanly. Now Chad Cole's going to have to deal with the number 98 of David Washington. Was not able to get to his inside into turn 3. This is really hurting David Washington because he's been up front all night long, and now that he had this mistake on pit road, it's really going to cost him a shot maybe at the victory because I really think he had a car capable of winning, and unless he gets a quick caution here before he loses too many more positions, he's going to have a very hard time getting back in a position to try to win this race. I want to talk about Chad Cole here for a second. He's all the way up now what will be the 6th position when he crosses the stripe. He started all the way back in the 33rd position, and he's climbed up almost into the top 5. That's a heck of a run for our old wily veteran Chad Cole.
I love how we want to talk about him as if we haven't done that a little bit, Brian. It's not like he's the all-time RSR winner or anything. But, you know, it is a great run for him, and it's good to see him back up towards the front in one of these Full Throttle Cup Series races. This is the only series in RSR that he has not picked up a victory in since his return at the beginning of last year. So, Cole, I don't think he's going to have the car to do it tonight, but he certainly is having a very solid run, and he's closing in a little bit, Justin, on Carl Shed in 5th. That may be a battle yet.
It's a battle shaping up right now. Cole looking to the inside, going off turn 1. He's just not going to have the grip because he's going to watch the 45 of Carl Shed drive it in way deep into turn 1. The lap machine, the number 28 up there, he's going to be a big hindrance as the ebb and flow of lap traffic going to start working its effect already as we're inside of 40 laps to go. 39 at the stripe this time by.
It's closing down, and as it's closing down, Scott Eckridge is checking out. 2-second advantage for the driver of the number 70 Host Venom Camry. Dwayne Vincent just doesn't have the steam right there to get up and challenge. Brian, the catch is going to be when that 70 hits traffic, how does he navigate it, and can this field close?
Well, I have to be honest with you, based off what I saw at the beginning of this race, I think Scott Eckridge has a very strong car for the long run. He was faster than just about everybody around him during that first long green flag run. He just struggled a lot to get around Anthony DeBarro. Anthony put up quite a fight when he had the race lead early on. He was not willing to let that lead go at all, and that kept Scott Eckridge from ever getting clear. But I will say this much, if he had gotten clear of Anthony DeBarro, I think we would have seen the exact same story with him checking out. I have a feeling that these guys are going to have a very hard time running him down. This just kind of fell into his hands with the caution coming out after Anthony DeBarro came to pit road. I don't think you could have played it out much better for him, and I'm sure he doesn't want to see a caution at this point to check them back up and give them a shot at him.
Oh, not a chance. If anybody's wondering, by the way, where the pole sitter went, he is 15th. He has not been able to make up much time since the restart. He sits 10.9 seconds back of the race leader, who has a 2.2 second gap right now over Dwayne Vincent in 2nd. Nick Silver 3rd, Greg Evans 4th, Carl Shed 5th, and we're going to quickly go side by side here on LSRTV, come back and take you all the way to the finish live for coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience from Richmond International Raceway. You're watching LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
The 2016 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series is all about change. New teams, new drivers, new tracks, even a new logo. And oh yeah, there's a brand new car. After 5 years of competition, we say goodbye to the Williams FW31 and we say hello to the McLaren MP430. But this isn't just a brand new car, it's a whole new ballgame. And with it, we bring new excitement, new strategies, new technology. For example, energy recovery and drag reduction systems. There's a new way of thinking about racing, and for all the drivers participating, it's back to the drawing board, wiping the slate clean in the ever-consuming pursuit of perfection. One little slip-up, one wrong move on track, one poor strategy call, and it's over. That's the difference between coming up short and becoming champion and being $10,000 richer to boot. So yeah, change is in the air, but we're going to start getting answers on the 27th of February as the 7th year of iRacing World Championship competition kicks off. And you won't miss a thing, with every single race live on iRacing Live, coverage brought to you by Racebot TV. So join us fortnightly from 1:30 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back to iRacing Live and LSRTV, the voice of sim racing coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience. Rolling towards a conclusion, 22 laps to go this time by. Scott Eckridge, Steel Horse Racing, trying to go back-to-back here with a second straight Full Throttle Cup Series victory. He's got 3 seconds right now on the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, Greg Evans, Nick Silver, Carl Shedd, the top 5. But boy, oh boy, Justin, this 70 has been so good in the latter stages of this race after we thought for so long it was going to be the 9 of Anthony DeBarro celebrating a victory tonight. It looks like it's been, the script's kind of been flipped and taken right out from underneath it.
Well, you couldn't have said that any better because the way Scott Eckridge, his MO has been lately, or when we first seen him up here in the Cup Series, was really he'd start fast and then fade away late, and he's kind of figured out how to flip the script there. He starts in contention and then turns on the juice when it's needed. And as I say that, you have to wonder if he's caught up in heavy lap traffic and not doing very well with it. Because I just seen Dwayne Vincent in the Haviland Ford. He took over a half a second out of him in the last 2 laps as we're coming up inside 20 to go.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and take a look at our SimVibe 20 to go right here. All right, so if I'm forcing you to look outside of the 70 of Scott Eckridge, Brian, you first. Who's impressed you tonight?
Well, I'm going to go with the number 51 of Nick Silver. He's another one of those drivers that started very deep in the field tonight and is up inside the top 5 right now. He started 26th at the beginning of this race, and he's up to 4th right now, and he's battling hard with Greg Evans trying to take that 3rd position away from him. I really like what he's done tonight, and he's doing a very good job. It looks like he's going to come home with a very solid finish.
Justin?
You know, you have to sit there and also give a shout out to the Chick-fil-A Chevrolet driver, the 88 of Kyle Tarasca. he's kind of quietly made his way up inside the top 7 right there. And, you know, Kyle, he's found himself on the wrong end of a few deals here the last few races, but good on him. He's right there hanging on to the back end of the 6th place driver, Chad Cole. He's right there. He's in contention to strike, especially if Cole decides that he's going to spin the rear tires and make the mistake.
And I want to go with the guy who's sitting in 9th right now, scheduled to run the majority of this season. But how about a shout out to the 34 of Sean Boundy, the 4th driver for Boomtown Sim, who came in a couple of weeks ago after the team and Christopher Hurlow parted ways. And Boundy in the SpriteDoYourPart.org Chevrolet has really done an impressive job tonight. He stayed out of trouble. He's best in class for the team right now. He may get caught before the end of this one by his teammate Anthony DeBarro, but it's going to be tight. And I think the driver of that 34 Chevrolet has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of here. And he's actually working to the inside of David Washington for the 8th position here and may get it before the end of this race.
Yeah, he's having a very good battle right now. Sean Boundy trying to make that move. They almost made contact down the middle of the front straightaway. Sean Boundy's trying to hold that inside line as they go down in turns 1 and 2, trying to take that position away from him. That's a great battle. It looks like he's going to get the job done. Steve Gottschalk got a little loose off turn 2. He was going to try to make a move and instead had to gather his car up, and he's going to lose a position back there to Daniel E. Everhart. So, Daniel is the first car 1 lap down trying to get into a lucky dog position, but still had to fall behind him and gather his car up. Now he's battling with Scott Simley, who is also a lap down, so he's slipping backwards here as he got loose just a couple of laps ago. And back up towards the front, though, we still have a very good battle going on between Greg Evans and Nick Silver for that 3rd and 4th position. Nick Silver has been hounding the back bumper of Greg Evans for about the last 10 laps, and we have a caution.
I didn't want to say it. I was worried we might have one before the end of this race. Caution with 12 laps to go, and I think it's the 42 of Scott Stenzel. 22, sorry. 22. I knew it was a 2. There it is. Bobby Terrell. The other back-end 2 car that's a lap down. We had 22 and 42, both a lap down, and the 22 on the losing end of this one brings out the caution with 12 laps to go. And I'm going to say, Justin, gander a guess that this is the end of any play nice that there might have been. Everybody's coming for tires. Everybody's putting their game face on. It's time to go. This is for all the marbles.
Well, that certainly is the case, and don't be surprised to see somebody take 2 tires and try to do whatever they can to hold somebody behind them, because as far as that goes, I mean, if you're the 13 of Dwayne Vincent, you have nothing to lose. You already have a victory, and you've already put yourself into the chase, so you have nothing to lose, just like the 19 of Carl Edwards in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
I don't know, Brian. We're seeing him get service. You can't do, well, You could do 2 tires, but I think they've got to know. There's 2 tires. I think that was a 45 of Carl Shedd taking a shot at it.
Yeah, it looks like he was the only one that took 2 tires. Carl Shedd's going to be that risk taker. He's going to try to get up there and see if he can't steal one away from Scott Eckert. He's going to have his work cut out for him. They ran a lot of laps on those left side tires, and we saw what happened to David Washington when he took 2 tires on the last caution and the last round of pit stops. So he's going to have the advantage of having the inside line when they go back green, but that's not necessarily going to work out for him because Scott Eckert has got such a strong race car. He might just be able to power by him on the outside line. He's going to do everything he can to try to win this thing, and if he gets a couple of quick cautions, this could work out in his favor. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this next 10 laps plays out.
I'm just gonna be the guy right now. Carl Shedd's call does not win this race. I'm just gonna be straight up. There's no way.
I won't argue that point. I don't think he's going to be able to hold off these guys, especially if we go green for more than about a half a lap. It's going to be very difficult for him to do it. Again, we saw how quickly David Washington fell when he was on 2 tires, and I do believe he had less laps on his left side tires than we're going to see Carl Shedd have when we go back green here. So I just don't see this playing out for Carl very well. But hey, you got to try something. If he wins this race, he's in the chase. So I like this call. It's a nice little risk taking, and it could work out for him. He could end up surprising all of us and then have a spot in the chase, and then we're going to be the ones that look like fools.
Let's be realistic, Justin. The way this works out for the 45 of Carl Shed is if we get a quick caution, a couple of quick cautions here on these restarts. I think that's the only way I see it working.
Well, as we know right now from last night, any caution with 5 to go and it's game over. So realistically, we're going to have what could be effectively a green-white checker. It's going to have to be an immediate caution for the 70th Scott Eckridge to have any chance. So it really could turn out to be a brilliant move. It's just got to depend on that final restart. If he spins his tires, it's game over. But if he has a better restart than Scott Eckridge and somebody decides they want to wad it up at the back of the pack, it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen because Carl Shed could realistically steal this one for Aegis.
Brian, you've been in the driver's seat in situations like this. Lights are out right here. It's going to be a 7-lap sprint. What are you telling your driver, or what are you thinking as a driver before we get set to go?
Well, if I'm Carl Shed, I'm hoping for a couple of quick cautions like you guys have both mentioned, and if I'm Scott Eckridge, I want this thing to stay clean and green to the end so I have a chance to make the move and try to win this race. That's his best opportunity, and it's the win-win for both those drivers depending on how it works out.
We're coming down to it. It's going to be 7 laps to go as the pace car makes the hard left turn to pit lane. Green flag flies. Carl Shed trying to go. Scott Eckridge from the outside lane stays right with him. If he can hold it there to the exit of turn 2, he'll have a shot to win this race. Answer, absolutely. Scott Eckridge to the outside lane. Scott Eckridge to the lead. Coming to 6 laps to go. Battles on for second. Eckridge's teammate Greg Evans, where did he come from on the outside lane? He goes to P2 with maybe a shot to win, looking for the lead in turn 1.
Greg Evans going to stick his nose up there, gets loose into turn 1 and 2. That's going to hand the advantage back to the 70th Scott Eckridge, and Evans going to power off that top side. He's going to try to close the gap as we're coming up this time by 5 laps to go here at the Richmond International Raceway.
It's shaping up to be a dogfight now, and we could yet see the bump and run between teammates like we saw Sunday between Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards. We know who got the better end of that deal, but right now, Scott Eckridge with the lead in hand by 2 car lengths, coming to 4 laps to go, 3 miles this time, Brian.
Yeah, they only have 3 miles left here at the Richmond International Raceway. Greg Evans is doing everything he can trying to track down Scott Eckridge, but Scott Eckridge is having nothing of it. He is trying to drive away. He actually overdrives turn 1. That's going to open the door for Greg Evans as they come off turn 2. Greg has a head of steam and he closes the gap. He's going to send it off in there into turn 3. Not close enough to give him a shot, but that really opened the door for Greg Evans to to have an opportunity. If Scott Eckridge makes another mistake, we could see Greg Evans pounce on him here, guys.
Oh, and I promise you, these teammates, they know what this win means. And, oh, Scott does it again. He allows Evans to close right up to the back deck lid. Justin, it's going to be a dogfight. 2 to go.
2 laps to go here as Eckridge right there is going to need a clean exit on turn number 4. Eckridge going to do just that. He's going to open it up by about a car length as Evans going to dive it right back down to the bottom. He's not going to get there. He's trying to back the corner up to try to get a run off of turn number 2. He does so. It's a drag race down the back straightaway. It's all Eckridge right now. Gap still 1 car length through 3 and 4.
As they come to the white flag, Greg Evans is going to have to take another shot at him. He's going to have to drive it deep down into turns 1 and 2 if he's going to have an opportunity to win this race. It doesn't look like he's going to have the momentum as he goes off into the corner. He tries to back the corner up to get a run off the corner. He's got a good head of steam as they work down the back.
Here we go, final time. He's going to have 1 shot to do it in 3 and 4. Evans dives it in deep. Eckridge dives it in deeper. Back to back for the driver of the number 70. Scott Eckridge off turn 4 wins at Richmond.
The 23 of Greg Evans will come home second. The 13 of Dwayne Vince, the defending Full Throttle Cup Series champion, comes home third. 4th to the 51 of Nick Silver. The 8 of Chad Cole will finish 5th. The 6th position goes to the 9 of Anthony Navarro. 7th to the 45 of Carl Shedd. The 2 of Rhett McBride will finish 8th. 9th to the 98 of David Washington. And the 80 of Mike Kelly will finish your top 10.
How about a burnout for the second Monday night in a row? He's going to start to be getting good at this, Brian, and it's not just his second win of the season, it's the second of his career. As they say, once you win one, all the rest of them come pretty easy, and that's a heck of a burnout right there.
Oh yeah, he's having fun down on the front straightaway doing this burnout. He is absolutely having a blast. 2 back-to-back victories in the Monday Night Full Throttle Cup Series. You can't ask for an any better situation right there. Scott Eckridge is one of those drivers, when he gets in a momentum, when he has momentum and he gets into a rhythm, he starts winning a lot of races, and this is the second of many, I have a feeling, in this Full Throttle Cup Series for Scott. And I definitely think you have to look at him as one of the favorites to possibly win this championship later on this year.
Oh, I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago, but now, absolutely. Scott Eckridge, a winner again at Richmond, and we'll be back for the post-race action right after this. From Richmond International Raceway, you're watching iRacing Live and LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to iRacing Live and LSRTV. Time for the post-race here for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience. Jacob Seelman, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin headed to pit road here in just mere moments to catch up with our podium finishers tonight after a impressive and markedly fun Richmond International Raceway event. But first, going to give you the full field rundown. Time for our iRacing Full Field Rundown, powered by iRacing.com, the world leader in motorsport simulation. And Scott Eckridge comes away with the victory. Greg Evans is second, and Dwayne Vincent, your podium. We'll hear from them momentarily. Nick Silver, though, Brian Macklin mentioned him before the end. Great run in fourth. And Chad Cole, the former champion, comes up fifth. Anthony DeBarro, the pole sitter, after having to start the lucky dog, was 17th with about 70 to go, comes back to sixth. Carl Shedd, seventh. Rhett McBride, a quiet eighth place finish after he started 23rd. David Washington holds on to a top 10 in ninth, and Mike Kelly rounds out the top 10.
11th to the 1 of Sean Castro. The 90 of Daniel Eberhardt will finish 12th. 13th to the 24 of Thomas George goes 13th. 14th to the 54 of Tim Matthews. The 87 of Christopher Hurlow 15th. 16th to Sean Boundy. Kyle Tarasca 17th. The 18th spot goes to Scott Simley. 19th to the 41 of Adam Littell. And rounding out the top 20, the 7 of Nelson Rivera.
After running up inside the top 5 for most of the race, Mitch Rollo comes home in the 21st position, a very disappointing result to a very solid start to the night. Matt Lacrosse is going to finish 22nd. Doug Roth will be 23rd. 24th goes to Stefan Mernack. And the last car that finishes on the lead lap tonight, Scott Stenzel, finishes 25th. The rest of these drivers are at least one lap down. Corbin Hemstreet finishes 26th. Bobby Terrell is 27th. Steve Gottschalk goes to 28th. Brennan Mercer is 29th. And rounding out the top 30, he's the last car just one lap down. Kevin Linden finishes 30th.
Yeah, it was one of those nights for some of these guys. 31st, Ross Cato. He was 2 laps down. Jose Gonzalez, 32nd. 33rd, Glenn Campbell. 34th, Douglas Wyatt, 4 down. 5 down for Jason Lester in 35th. Jimmy North, involved in one of the caution flags that shook up the order tonight, comes home 12 down in 36th. Mike Montesti, 37th, was out of the race, as was Joseph Tice and Dan Murray 38th and 39th. That's a look at your iRacing full field rundown presented by iRacing, the world leader in motorsport simulation and an official sim racing partner of NASCAR. Gatorade Victory Lane, though, right now is the place where I stand with tonight's race winner. And, you know, I've got to imagine that this has got to start to sound pretty good. Scott Eckridge, how do you like back-to-back? It's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Oh, you betcha. Yeah, that's great to get another one here and get it on a little more non-questionable terms.
Oh, man. Talk me through that last run, because you had to start from the outside with Shed down there beneath you. He took 2, you had 4, you had the power down into turn 1, and then all of a sudden your teammate's knocking on your back bumper.
Yeah, it's had a little bit heavier of a fuel load, made a little mistake on the pit stop there, so it was a little bit looser than I was expecting there on the restart, and I almost gave it away there coming out of 3 in the that first lap of green.
We were watching you and Greg there the last 5 laps, and all of us were thinking it. I'll go ahead and ask you, were you waiting for the bump? Did you think it was coming if he could get there?
Well, I guess the good thing we had going was it was a teammate, although that didn't seem to make a difference in other races this week. But I was hoping it would make a difference here, and it did. He did a good thing, and he didn't boot me or anything, so I appreciate that and thank it for him.
2 wins, my friend. You are officially, as long as you stay in the top 30 to Richmond, locked in to the chase for the Full Throttle Cup. As a rookie, how good does that feel, hearing that just now, 8 or 9 races deep into this season?
Oh, it definitely feels great. Then you can relax, a little weights lifted off your shoulders. You can just, race and have fun every week, and you don't need to have those amazing finishes to point your way in.
I know you can't do it by yourself, and there's some partners on that car that you need to thank, Scott. Who makes it happen for you in the 70 team?
Like always, Steel Horse Racing. They give us good stuff every week and make sure we have a great chance to win. And of course, you guys for what you do every week. It's also appreciated.
Back-to-back winner. He gets his first 2 career Full Throttle Cup Series wins in 2 weeks. Scott Eckridge takes it down in Richmond, and the guy on the other end of the teammate train is standing by, Justin Rosenau. We thought he was going to get a bump, but Greg Evans didn't quite give one.
Alongside the driver, the number 23, Greg Evans. Greg, you did the best you could to get to the back bumper. I just think you came up just a dime short. I won't even say $1 short, but take us through that last little run there. You made it really interesting. Just how hard was it to rock it up around the outside and just try to get there to Scott?
Well, I've been working on a different line the whole race, trying to get a little bit higher in the 1 and 3, and it seemed like I cut down a little better. It looked like he might have been just a little bit looser than I was, and I got really close to him. And I kept slipping. It was just so hard to stay on the gas, come off the corners. And like I said, he's a teammate. He's helped me out a lot this year and helped me, get back to where I was last year. I felt like we finally turned the corner here, and it was a good race with him. I was hoping I could get to his bumper. I'm not sure I'd have been able to bump him, but I was really going to race him hard if I could get to him. But it was a great race, and congratulations to Scott.
Well, you answered my next question, but looking forward, you've won before. I know 1.5 miles seemed to be your specialty. Looking forward as we go to the plate track, can you break through and put yourself into the chase and get yourself locked in for another chase battle this year in 2016?
I sure hope so. Man, I know we're sitting pretty good in points, but a win, there's nothing like that. And I was hoping I'd have one already this year. Talladega is kind of a, toss of the cards. You never know what's going to happen. I know we've always ran pretty good there, but you just never really can tell what's going to happen. So, if we could pick up a win in Talladega, I sure would take it. If not, then hopefully we can get out there with another good points today. We've been running the top 10, I think, the last 3 or 4 races, and the top 5 the last 2 races. So I think we're getting some momentum. Just looking for that W, and that'd be great to get that W.
So if it's you and Scott up front next week at Talladega, I'm just going to throw this at you. give me a rocket of an answer right back. You're going to try to get around them, but if you had to bump them to get it done next week at Talladega, are you going to give them the old short track bump and run to try to get the W next week?
If I think I can do it without wrecking him, then definitely. He's already got 2 wins, and I would really like to go ahead and get one early off in the season, get that started off right, and like I said, getting locked into the chase. So next week, if it comes down to it, if I can do it cleanly, yeah, I'll go for the W, no matter who it is.
All right, man. You know what time it is. Sponsor shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you? Who's responsible for putting you here on the middle step of the podium?
Man, I definitely have to thank Amsoil and Adam Blottle. He's an authorized dealer for Amsoil. He came on with me. He promised me that he would support the whole year, and he has. And he stuck behind me even though we haven't got a W yet. But we're still working on it. He stuck behind me. I thank him and Amsoil. I can't design, PPG, paint products, duct tape, shear tape. And thank my guys at SHR, Steel Horse Racing, for sticking behind me too and supporting me this year.
That's the driver who finished second. That's the 23 of Greg Evans. And going to send it down pit road right now to the third member of the broadcast crew from Delaware. It's going to be Brian Macklin. You caught up with the 13, the defending Cup Series champ, Dwayne Vincent.
Yeah, I've caught up with our third place finisher, Dwayne Vincent. You got a great run here tonight at the Richmond International Raceway. Of course, you won a couple weeks ago at Texas. Take us through your night and the events that led up to you getting your third place.
Yeah, it was actually a fun race, man. I thought it was going to be a caution fest, but we had some really good long green flag runs. I had nothing for Scott. He was really good on the long run, man, and the car was just really wicked for me right around the start-finish line, man. I'd have to crack the throttle and get back in it, and it was just killing my straightaway speed. But overall, I had a blast. It was a very good race.
Yeah, we enjoyed watching it up here in the broadcast booth. It was a lot of fun to call and a lot of fun to watch throughout the night. You already have one win this year, so you're pretty much locked into the chase for this later on this year. Next week is Talladega. What's your game plan, knowing that you don't have to worry about points? You're already locked into the chase. Are we going to see you take some risks and try to get up there and win that race?
Yes, sir. That's the only thing you can do at Talladega, man. Like you said, especially being that we have a win, we're going to try to get up front and stay up there.
What kind of racing do you expect next week at Talladega with the draft package the way it is?
I don't know, man. I haven't made a lap there yet with this new package, so it's going to be a learning experience, that's for sure.
All right, well, we'll let you go here in just a moment. Just want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family that might be watching back at home. Who makes it happen for you, Dwayne?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Mom and Dad at home. They enjoy watching this stuff. And I forgot to thank when I won at Texas. That was my first race on this new computer. I want to say thanks to Doghouse Systems out of Dallas. They build very, very good gaming systems, and I'm very happy with this thing. So if anybody out there is looking for a new PC, check those guys out.
All right, that was Dwayne Vincent. He finishes third tonight here at the Richmond International Raceway. He's going to let it all hang loose next week at Talladega, as we expect every other driver in the field to do. And Jacob, I have a feeling that's going to be a very exciting race. We're going to have a little bit of a different draft package. Not really sure what we're going to see, but I think one thing is for sure, it's going to be a heck of a show. We should see a lot of 2 and 3 wide action, and we could see somebody that we're not used to seeing run up front come out with a victory and steal a spot in the chase.
Well, I think I like how it's shaping up for sure. I think I really like some of the storylines. I mean, we've seen different phases of this season. It started out Boomtown Sim, and it looked for a while tonight, Justin Rosenau, that theme would continue. But the cautions changed the game, and now it's steel horse racing that seems to have some of the momentum. And I'm curious your thoughts as we're basically, for lack of a better equation, a third of the way through the regular season now. Do you think at this point there's any particular team that has all the power going to Talladega?
Well, you would really say, based on past experience through the first quarter to a third of the season, that it was just primarily a 2-horse race between Boomtown and Aegis Motorsports, and we were really wondering when Steel Horse was going to come to life, and boy, they did it in a big way, and you can never really count out anybody when it comes to the plate track at Talladega. So, I'm really looking for the three-headed monster. I want to see Steel Horse versus Boomtown versus Aegis, and I want to see them go 43 wide all the way to the finish and give us the biggest finish we've ever seen on LSRTV.
All right, Brian, if you had to pick Scott Eckridge versus Boomtown, eight races into the year, who are you liking for the bigger performance?
Well, I think you definitely have to look at Boomtown and see what they've done through the beginning of the season. They have been very dominant through the beginning of the season. Of course, we've seen in the last couple of weeks that Scott Eckridge has really come on strong, so that could speak volumes for that. I do believe Boomtown still has the advantage. They've been very fast pretty much everywhere we go. The couple of races that they haven't done good in, they've kind of had things not go their way throughout the course of the race. That's kind of taken them out of contention for the race victory. We saw that tonight with Anthony DeBarro. He pitted under green expecting this thing to stay green, and then a caution came out and it trapped him a lap down. He took the lucky dog but was never able to rebound and get back to the front. He was one of those guys that if he could have kept that track position, it was going to be very hard for Scott Eckridge to get by him. So I think it's kind of a toss-up between the two. Scott's been fast in recent weeks, but the Boomtown cars are fast every week. It's just a matter of things falling their way so they can continue to win races. I still think the favor is going towards the Boomtown guys.
We'll buy it, and I will say as we get set to close tonight, it's going to be a very fun time when we get to Talladega next Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Right now, though, to stay up to date with all the latest from all of us at LSRTV, visit us on the web at livesimracing.com or click us on Facebook at facebook.com/livesimracingtv. And as we get set to go out of the box tonight, we do want to say thanks one more time to the presenting sponsors that help make it possible for RSR to put this series on and have us be the broadcasters. Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe by Sim Experience. Established in 1982, Gary Mercer Trucking has the experience and expertise that your freight deserves, and their specialty is in over-the-road, less-than-load, and full truckload freight services between Ontario, Canada, and all points in the U.S. For more information, visit gmercer.com. And Sim Experience, a premier motion simulator manufacturer, has expertise in electronics engineering, manufacturing, and software development, whose products are utilized worldwide in driver training facilities, homes, simulation centers, and race driver development programs. For more information on them, visit experience.com. And as we say goodnight, we do remind you that this copyrighted broadcast is presented by the authority of LSRTV, LLC, and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, nor are the accounts and descriptions of this event disseminated in any way, shape, or form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing TV. And for LSRTV's Evan Pasoko, Justin Rosenau, Brian Macklin, producer Cisco Scaramuza, and everyone else at LSRTV, on behalf of the broadcast team tonight, I'm Jacob Seelman, reminding you to keep it off the wall until we meet again, and we'll see you next time right here on the web. Congratulations, Scott Eckridge, a two-time winner in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and SimVibe. We'll see you in a week when we head to Talladega. For now, so long and good night.